telling stat was the number of times he was sacked. 0. Carson Wentz had been sacked 10 times more than any other quarterback in the NFL. It's interesting to look at the remaining schedule. The Eagles finish with East leading Washington, who beat them to open up the season, which feels like it was about 100 years ago. With that result, the Packers could clinch the division and take over the top of the table in the NFC, taking on NFC North rival Detroit. Lions scored early. They're up 7-0. Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, and this reminder.
Wash your hands, wash your butt.
7 catches, 115 yards for Davante, ties the game at 7s. It's 14-all in the third. 3rd and 14. Rodgers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, gain of 21, and they're into the red zone. Later in the drive, felt like Green Bay had the ball in the red zone all second half long. I'll do it myself. Rodgers gives the Packers the 21-14 lead. Once again, down there close. They got a lot of different options, and Rodgers finds Robert Tonyan. Just increase the lead to 2 touchdowns. 7 minutes to go in the game. 3rd and 4, Matthew Stafford, nowhere to go with it, takes off running, and he's trying to slide down, kind of gets crunched there by Kenny Clark. Stafford gets up holding his ribs. He'd remain in the game, but was later replaced by Chase Daniel. On the next play, Kerryon Johnson plows his way into the end zone, and it's a 7-point game. 5 minutes to go. Packers get the ball to Davante Adams. 29-yard game, Packers on the move. Drive would stall. Mason Crosby. Didn't he have that horrible game here in Detroit a few years back? Well, here from 58, bang, right down the middle. Wait, bang! Yeah, that's how you say that correctly. So the lead's back to 10. Jamal Agnew gets a running start out of the end zone. Splits a couple of Packers defenders. And he's not quite gone. There's Crosby to knock him out of bounds. Detroit would get a field goal to get within 7, and then we got another watermelon ball, and Miles Killebrew grabs it. Did he get it? Nope. Not Lions possession. And Green Bay gets the victory to move to 10-3. So the Saints loss and the Green Bay win shakes up the top. In addition to clinching the NFC North, the Packers now are the number 1 seed in the NFC because, as you'll recall, they beat New Orleans in New Orleans earlier this season. Over the final 3 weeks, the Saints will have one game, will have to be a game better, I should say, in a stretch which also includes a date next week with the Kansas City Chiefs. Tim Hasselbeck joins us now in Green Bay, as we just established here, in that spot atop the NFC. And Steve and I were talking about this. It feels like they're kind of slept on a little bit. We know about Rodgers. There's a lot to love there. But as you look at the defensive side of the football, what do they do that makes you believe that they could be a threat here?
Well, I think they're really talented personnel-wise on the defensive side of the ball. That's probably first and foremost. And then their defensive coordinator, Mike Pettin, does a really good job of being creative when they get to known passing situations. Remember, he's kind of a Rex Ryan disciple, creative with that stuff. This is what I mean about their personnel. Detroit is going to chip both edge rushers. It doesn't matter. When you get home with chips on both sides, it tells you something about guys' ability to get to the quarterback like Rashawn Gary does there. And how about this about a known passing situation? It's just a 4-man rush, but the way they late stem to this and then bring a pressure, they're going to get a free runner with a 4-man rush, which really does a good job, of getting to Stafford with Savage, prior to the half. And then, on a 3rd and 6, you need guys to be able to play above the call. Look at Jair Alexander. Because of the bunch set, he's got to play off coverage. It's, a little whip route, and he's able to, on a ball that's not missed inside, still make a play on it. He's, I think, starting to get credit for being one of the better corners in the league. So when you match the personnel with some of the creative play calling defensively, I think they're really good. And they don't need to be the best, but, they're pretty stinking good.
And if they are the best, Tim, we won't have fans for this postseason, but let's see. Would I rather go outside to Green Bay or would I rather go to a dome inside in New Orleans? I think we all know where we'd rather be headed in the playoffs, regardless of fans or not. Tim, thanks as always. We'll talk again next week, all right?
Sure. Right now, the Chiefs clinch the division yet again with their win over Miami, their 5th straight AFC West crown. But the Dolphins' loss was the Steelers' win because they've got this primetime game coming up against the Bills, but they've already clinched a playoff berth with Miami's loss. You see the Bills leading the East. Titans got it down in the South right now, but Browns, Colts, Dolphins all in the wild card mix right now with Ravens, Raiders, Patriots still, believe it or not, with a chance. All right, so we got two teams in the AFC with only one loss right now before the Steelers play tonight, Tim. But you said there's one team clearly better than the other one. I assume that's Kansas City. But how do you see this entire AFC picture playing out right now?
Well, I do think Kansas City's the best team in the AFC. You know, looking at that list, look, I think all of those division winners or leaders right now, like they're good enough to go to the Super Bowl. All of those teams right now that we see at the top of their division can do it. And then I would say this, you know, the Colts that are, you know, in that wild card mix, they are a team that, you know, I think could get hot. And I think that, you know, when you look at Cleveland, similar thing. But those four division leaders right now, you know, on any given Sunday, you know, because the ball bounces funny at times, I think they have to feel really good about their chances. You know, teams that have good quarterbacks, guys that are playing well, and have other elements of their football team that are good enough to get it done.
Well, that's a good point, Rob. I'm going to ask your final takeaway in a moment. And I know it's about the Chiefs, but as you look at some of the other teams in that AFC, if you had to put your money on a team right now that could potentially make that deep run and maybe see the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, who is it?
It'd have to be a team with a great defense. So anybody that can match up against what the Chiefs are able to put on that football field with the speed. So you'd think the Steelers could potentially have the pass rush to get after Mahomes, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, and the secondary that can cover. So you're going to have to have a great defense to play Kansas City. So when I look at that, maybe the Steelers can do it if they can get healthy here and continue to progress at the end of the season. I know they had a hiccup against Washington, but they got to get back on track tonight.
Like Tim, you believe the Chiefs clearly are the best team in the AFC and the favorites to win a second straight Super Bowl. But what did you see from them today, Rob, that just cements that belief that they are clearly the best team?
Well, man, I just think it's their ability to score quickly, throwing 3 turnovers, having 3 interceptions and being down. Some teams, they wouldn't be able to recover from that. But Pat Mahomes obviously really isn't fazed by the turnovers. They have so much speed on offense with Hill, and you have Kelsey, who's your intermediate route guy that's very good and explosive in finding the space. And with Pat Mahomes extending plays, being able to throw the football anywhere on the field, he's got to be one of the most impressive quarterbacks that I have seen as a player. And now that I'm commentating, he's the best in the league. So with that, I think it's going to be really tough for the Chiefs to not win the AFC and get into the Super Bowl with the way that they're playing offensively.
Yeah, again, especially you have a game today where they turn over 4 times and still win on the road. That tells you a lot about the resiliency of that squad as well, falling behind in this game once again. Tim, let me finish up with you. We started talking about the quarterback situation in Philadelphia, and a lot of questions will be asked and have to be answered over the next few days. What do you think about what's happening there with Doug Peterson's squad? Eagles quarterback situation over the next several days. But now to the AFC. Kansas City, top team in the AFC, taking on the Dolphins down in Miami. Patrick Mahomes, first drive of the game for KC, and Mahomes' pass is tipped at the line, picked off by Byron Jones, and he fumbles at the end of the play, but the Dolphins do recover. Only the 3rd interception of the year for Mahomes, but it would not be his last in this game. Under pressure here. Not an interception, but a huge loss inside the 5-yard line. Loses 30 yards on that sack, and then this one is picked off by Eric Rowe. 2 picks in the first quarter for Mahomes. The Dolphins would take a 10-0 lead, but then Mahomes like, yo, we are down, but we are far from over. Travis Kelce, he's open. We say that a lot. Chiefs would end up taking a 14 lead at the half, 3rd quarter. Dolphins with the punt. So McCole Hardman. And he had a lane, he had blockers, and he had all the speed. 67-yard touchdown as the Chiefs roll off 28 unanswered points.